other people now, more so than they ever had, via Facebook or Twitter or email or whatever. But they actually feel more alone now than they've ever felt. People feel more alone now than they've ever felt, yet they have access to more people than they've ever had. I thought that was a fact. And it is because of the loss of the interpersonal relationships. That's up to the family. I mean, to me, that's a family decision that they have to make, where you have to build the relationship within the family, and turn the computer off after 8 p.m. or whatever the rule in the house is. I don't think we as a government have any role in that. It is a concern. It's a societal concern, but I don't think that we can really change it. I'm looking for ways to utilize. If kids are going to be online anyway for several hours a day, which they are, I'd rather have them doing something more productive, where they're stimulating their mind and they're learning with this access to information that exists, as opposed to just roaming and living on Facebook. And so they're online. They're using technology. They are living in a 21st century world, but they go to an education system that is living in the 20th century. And that has to merge. We have to solve that. And I'm very grateful for today. Thank you all for your questions, and thank you again for letting me be here.
Thank you, Representative Weatherford. We look forward to working with you in the legislature, the Florida College Access Network, as we build a network that seeks to mobilize local communities. So thank you for your comments this morning. We appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to call up the panelists for the next session up to the stage. And we'll be starting our Goal 2025 discussion in just a few minutes. Actually, in just a couple of minutes. After this session, we will have a 15-minute break, so I ask that you help us stay on time, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you.
And greater skills. In fact, by 2018, it's estimated 63% of all jobs in America will require some level of post-secondary education. At the same time, America's global rank in college completion is slipping. Instead of gaining ground, the U.S. dropped from 12th to 15th in 2011 in the share of young adults holding degrees. You might say we're stuck in neutral, while many countries are moving ahead. To help you, your community, and our nation compete in this global economy, it's crucial for as many Americans as possible to get a degree or certificate that has value in the labor market. That's the big picture.
You're going to take a break. It looks like it. We'll give them a few minutes.
Global rank in college completion is slipping. Instead of gaining ground, the U.S. dropped from 12th to 15th in 2011 in the share of young adults holding degrees. You might say we're stuck in neutral, while many countries are moving ahead. To help you, your community, and our nation compete in this global economy, it's crucial for as many Americans as possible to get a degree or certificate that has value in the labor market. That's the big picture.
All right. We are moving into our Goal 2025 session. If all the attendees can please take your seats.
Excuse me, could I make an announcement while people are coming to their seats?
Actually, we're getting ready to get started. I'm sorry, but perhaps at some other time during the session. The first step to increasing attainment is to set a specific state goal that can be used as a basis for all future decisions affecting higher education in the state. Illinois, Tennessee, Ohio, Texas, Arizona, and Oregon have all set state goals for attainment, and these states are already seeing a dramatic shift in the way higher education decisions are framed and addressed. A state goal can lead to the alignment and mobilization of local resources and talents from different sectors to support students and institutional efforts to boost completion rates. State goals for attainment can also lead to the need for interim measures that help to point the way toward the eventual achievement of a state goal. This general session is designed to inform attendees of national and state trends and the implications for Florida in setting a statewide degree attainment goal. Gina Keller-Burdell is the program officer for Lumina Foundation for Education. And I want to thank the Lumina Foundation for sponsoring this session this morning. Lumina has been a terrific partner for our efforts in Florida, but they've also been a lead voice nationally around the movements of goal setting across the country. And so we're very pleased to be able to work with Lumina and to call them our partners. Gina Keller-Burdell leads Lumina's efforts to build the capacity of national youth serving organizations and access and success networks to support students financially, socially, and academically in navigating higher education. Her other major responsibilities include supporting a major Lumina Latino Student Success Initiative and coordinating corporate alliances across the country. Prior to joining Lumina Foundation, Ms. Burdell worked in corporate philanthropy and educational outreach. She also serves as an adjunct professor for Indiana Wesleyan University in the areas of communication and business. It's my pleasure to introduce our session sponsor this morning, Gina Keller-Burdell.
Thank you, Braulio. It's always a pleasure to be in Tampa. Lumina actually helped start the Florida College Access Network as a grassroots movement to address student access and success. And Braulio and his capable staff worked with us to form C.A.N. under our Know How to Go initiative. And maybe you're familiar with that public service campaign that had the 4 steps to inform students how to access and succeed in higher education. And C.A.N. has become one of our shining stars of those movements that we had in 15 states. And Braulio and his staff are often called on when we need a speaker at a national conference to come in and talk about how it's done and how to build those partnerships. So I would just like to commend them for all the work that they've done for Lumina. Thank you, Braulio. Well, with the remarks that you've had this morning, you've heard a lot about graduation rates. You've heard a lot about employment figures. The 2 things that I haven't heard anybody really address yet are the facts that there's competition, and competition between states. Representative Weatherford did mention that in his remarks briefly this morning. But there is competition between the states, brain drain, jobs, economic development, all of those things that we know. And if you will note at your spot, there is a big thick book that was put out by the Georgetown Center for Education and Workforce. And this is the 3rd report that Lumina has put out, Stronger Nation Through Higher Education. If you flip through it, it has all the statistics for the states. And this is the most current information that's out there. We actually brought this edition out at the end of March, so it is very current. You'll notice in here that it's got statistics for all of the states. And we have added metro areas in the front of it. And Tampa is actually listed on page 9. And you have a graduation rate of 37.56%. The great state of Florida has their own attainment rate. The great state of Florida has their breakdown even by county on page 29. On the flip side of that, you'll see it by county. Now, the other level of competition that's not been addressed here this morning is international competition. And we have been doing that tracking now for 3 years. And this is the part that really scares me. When we started tracking this information In the age categories between 24 and 64, we were 8th in the world in college graduation rate. This year we are 15th. We have fallen 7 places in 3 years. Now, for my generation and some of you who are in the upper level, we still rank number 1 in high school graduation, or excuse me, college graduation rate. Because mainly the baby boomers and the GI Bills that helped get our fathers and mothers through college. But in my kids' generation of 25 to 34 is where we are starting to dismally go down. And this literally will be the first generation that is less educated than their parents. Now think about what that means for our country and our economy. Those are really scary figures. So we brought you the entire report today so you could see where your competition is on the state level. This is also available on our website online. You can print out just the state pages that you want. And this is to kind of set the framework for the rest of the discussion today. Goal 2025 is a framework that Lumina came up with. It's a big tent that can be used for many diverse organizations with messaging on the local, state, and national level to come around with common language, a common goal for discussions to take place. Our founding CEO of Lumina Foundation, Martha Lampkin, used to tell our staff, data is our friend. You have to know where you're starting. So today you have your starting point for this critical work that needs to be done. And that's what we're going to frame the rest of the day about. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Gene Marshall, who is the chair of your Community Foundation of Tampa Bay, and he is going to moderate this session for us. Thank you.
I'm going to keep my seat this morning to do the moderation job because I'm going to be the one talking the least. The experts will do the talking to you. But thank you for inviting me this morning to moderate this session, and thank you, C.A.N, for including me in your strategic planning task force in order to attack this problem as we take a look at it. Something that hit me this morning that Representative Weatherford said, and I don't know if I have the quote exactly, but he indicated that education is the only way to narrow the gap between people in poverty. And my thought was educate an individual and watch them soar. So we've got to do something about this. I truly believe in the mission of Florida C.A.N, and I'm proud to be a partner in this effort. I'm not an educator. I grew up in the for-profit world on the banking side. But I can remember one of the main reasons I moved a major op center of J.P. Morgan Chase here to the Tampa Bay area was the access to educated workers. I looked at 7 cities before deciding on the Tampa Bay area. And the overriding decision reason was the access to USF, UT, HCC, Eckerd College, St. Pete Junior College at the time, etc., etc., etc. So this is a very, very important goal that we're attacking here. A growing number of state policymakers and business leaders are also, as you know, concerned that our nation as a whole and our states are falling behind in the race to accumulate the educational capital needed to ensure that we are world class and not second class in the 21st century. And you've heard a lot about that. I looked at a recent analysis by the Center for Law and Social Policy and the National Center for Higher Education Management System, and it indicated that the U.S. has fallen to 15th place, among OECD member countries in percentage of 25 to 34-year-olds with an associate's level college degree or higher. That's not acceptable. We've got to do something about that. And while everyone is talking about the critical need to develop a more competitive workforce, relatively few states have publicly identified their goals for increasing college completion. I truly believe that the first step to increasing credentialed workers in Florida and in our nation is to set these specific goals. So, this session this morning is designed to inform us on national and state trends in this area and the implications for Florida setting a statewide degree attainment goal. So, let's begin. Joining us on this panel this morning are some heavy hitters, so that's why I'm going to shut up and let them talk. Let me introduce them to you. Ladies first. Susan Periches. Susan, I hope I did not mess up your last name, but it's unintentional. Susan is the president and CEO of the Florida Council 400. As president, she serves to advise the council on issues affecting business and to assist in strengthening partnerships to achieve a competitive business climate and strong economy. I'm going to stop there. Susan, like myself, is kind of like on the other side of the equation, on the business side. And it's obvious that business are the consumer of what the colleges and universities put out in the state of Florida. So they're a very important piece of this equation. We've also got Dr. Ed Moore. He's the president of the Independent Colleges and University of Florida, a Tallahassee-based association of 29 private, not-for-profit colleges and universities. He's also a member of the Florida Higher Education Coordinating Council and serves as executive director of the Higher Education Facilities Finance Authority in Florida, a statutory body. I don't know what all of that means, but it sounds very important. And quite frankly, he's very, very involved in the education process and how we go about doing that. And last but not least, we've asked Miguel Del Valle to join us. Miguel is the chairman of the Illinois P20 Council, and as you've heard, Illinois is one of the states that have taken this seriously and have set goals. This P20 Council was established by the Illinois State Legislature to foster collaboration among state agencies, education institutions, local schools, community groups, businesses, and others to develop a seamless and suitable statewide system of quality education. As you heard from Representative Weatherford, we all have the goal in mind. We have just not coordinated it and structured it and brought it together in order to make it happen in a comprehensive manner. I think Illinois is ahead of us in putting together this P20 Council. So we'll hear a bit from Miguel today as to how they started, where they are, what they are, what they have experienced today. So, without further ado, let me throw out. You will have opportunity at the end to ask this panel some questions. But let me start it by throwing out a question. I'll start with you, Dr. Moore. It's clear that our labor market is demanding more higher skilled workers and the demand for post-secondary degrees is rising. What policy trends are you seeing both nationally and in Florida to help meet these demands? And what are the policy trends undercutting Florida's ability to meet workforce demand for a highly skilled workforce? Give us your thoughts on that.
I have an hour.
Unfortunately, no.
On the first part of that, policy trends, the legislature in its wisdom, and oftentimes it's not as wise as we would like for it to be when we're on the outside getting them to do policy. They created what's the Higher Education Coordinating Council here in Florida, and for the very first time, we're probably the only state, other than Illinois, and I will divulge that I had the pleasure of living in Illinois for 21 years prior to coming back to Florida and serving on the Illinois Board of Higher Education and the precursor to the board that he chairs, which was it was sort of a K-20 board. It used to just be a joint board between the State Board of Education and the Board of Higher Education. So I've kind of been wrestling with these issues for a long time. The HEC, as we call it, it's kind of an unfortunate acronym, but the HEC committee is undertaking the first part of your question, trying to determine, and it's interesting that no one's ever done this. The first task we did was we developed an inventory of degree programs in Florida, and that's soon to go hot and be online. It'll be, we've argued whether to go to the 6-digit code or 3 digits or how far we're going to go with it, but it will be available so that you can easily determine if you're a student or someone moving to Florida, or a business thinking about coming to Florida, which community. And it's also linked to the work of Workforce Florida. I serve on that board too, and the stuff that the Chamber's done. So by region in Florida, say a business that, not that we try to steal businesses from Illinois, but we do, is interested in moving, maybe opening up a branch in Florida, moving their headquarters to Florida, would be able to go right onto this site and determine in the various communities what types of degree programs are there, how can I partner with universities, what degree programs can my employees and their families take advantage of. That's a good, really good first step. But the flip side of that coin that we're having a little more difficulty with is in ascertaining demand. Florida has tremendous capacity in higher education. It's between all the various sectors, there's a lot of resources out here. I mean, Representative Weatherford talked about spending $4 billion. That's just the public cost on all of that. The private cost on that is way beyond that $4 billion. We are working with the various business groups in Florida trying to get a handle on demand. I can't tell you today, and I dare say probably in any other state they can't tell you, are we not producing what you need? And that sounds very simple, but can you tell me as a business in Florida, are you trying to hire something that we're not producing? There's no central repository for that. There's no way to ascertain that, short of calling every business in Florida and saying, do you need biologists? We don't know. We honestly don't know. As the Speaker Designate said earlier, the jobs that are here today weren't here 10 years ago. We try to focus, particularly in my side, I represent a lot of the traditional liberal arts types colleges and universities and research universities, and unfortunately, and I say this with pride and dismay, the only institution in Florida that is in the top 50 nationally is a private institution. That's shameful. We need to get our top universities in Florida, at least 4 of them, up into that top bracket. We're not there. Actually, we've lost ground over the last several years. So, in short, I mean, I say I could go for an hour on this, but we need better linkages between the business community and business needs and what higher education is doing. And I'm not suggesting that to say that the goal of higher education is to produce, like we're factories, are going to produce widgets. Because if those jobs that are here today weren't here 6 or 8 years ago, I think the best thing higher education can do is teach people how to think and reason and understand that they're going to spend a lifetime of learning. I'm a good example of that. I've got a PhD and I didn't go back to school for my PhD until I was 50. I spent a lifetime working. I got my master's young and then got family and working, and like most people, life got in the way. But when I had an opportunity to go back and do it, I did it. And more people are doing that kind of return to education, but they're going to need to do it not with the gap between the time they're 25 and 50 like I did, but going all the time. We can't presume that STEM is the answer or any particular type of higher education is the answer. We need students that can learn. So I hope I answered some of your question in my ramblings there.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you did. One addendum to that, though. What else do you think our legislatures should be doing in order to accelerate this trend?
I think they're moving in the right direction of forcing conversation, but I think they also ought to be taking a different approach to how they fund and policy development, doing more collaborative, using all of the resources in Florida. We've used some grants through ICUF. We've used some grants, for example, working with specific counties on raising the level of science and math education by working with teachers directly, providing master degree opportunities in content areas, having seminars and those kinds of things. I think being fostered out of Tallahassee, more of those kind of endeavors where we force the K-12 systems to work with all of the sectors in higher education, and using a carrot and a stick approach. So you put funding available and then allow some RFPs to occur, true good RFPs to come in and partner. ICUF tries to partner as best we can with our state colleges and universities. We do it very often. We do it with our state university system. We all get along. I don't know how it works in Illinois or in other states, but our sectors generally pretty well get along with one another and try our best in various communities. But I think the legislature, from a policy basis, could foster more of that by altering their funding models.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Let me turn to the state of Illinois. We have no pride in invented here. You know, we have no problems in plagiarizing, so to speak, best practices. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? So, Miguel, can you talk to us a little bit about how important goal setting is on accelerating degree production, as you've seen in the state of Illinois, and how has Illinois benefited from setting a statewide degree attainment goal? And what can Florida, as I indicated, learn from this story as we move towards, I guess, emulating what you guys are doing?
Well, I guess after my comments, we could all go home, right? Because we'll know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't work that way. First of all, let me thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. And in responding to your question, I can tell you that we've learned from other states, and we've stolen a few ideas. And that's what it's all about. You learn from each other, and then you work to create a structure that best fits and addresses your needs. In Illinois, we created the P20 Council. It was created by statute. And I think that's very important because it's important for the legislature and the executive branch of government to know that they're responsible for creating a body that is going to, in some ways, hold them accountable and treat them as partners because it takes a partnership to be able to one, establish a goal, and number two, establish the mechanisms for measuring progress towards achieving that goal. The P20 Council was created in the latter part of 2009. The mission is to deliberate and make recommendations to the governor, the Illinois General Assembly, and state agencies for developing a seamless and sustainable statewide system of quality education and support from birth through adulthood that maximizes students' educational attainment, opportunities for success in the workforce, and contributions to their local communities. And to me, that last part is the most important. Contributions to the local community. Where does the leadership come from? Where do the skills come from to ensure the kinds of economic opportunities that ensure progress for a people, for a neighborhood, for a sector? We have representation from different sectors. We don't want anyone on the other side We want everyone on the same side. And so we have legislative members, we have business members, we have civic leaders, and we have advocacy groups, as well as all the state education and workforce agencies represented on the council. All the state agencies are on the council, including the workforce and economic development agencies and the human services agency. Because when we say birth through workforce, we're all in it together. And it begins with, in many communities, the services provided by the Department of Human Services that's responsible for child care, and having a system in place to measure the quality of the child care services that are available. We've got a lot of independent entrepreneurs out there providing child care services, but how do we ensure quality so that those children are prepared when they start preschool? We established a statutory goal of universal preschool in the state of Illinois, and we, through the P20 Council, have assisted in developing a kindergarten readiness survey to be able to then measure the effectiveness of the preschool programs. And then, of course, along with every other state, just about every other state, we're involved in implementing Common Core standards and defining, through the work of the P20 Council, a definition, a clear definition that is operationalized of college and career readiness, so that we could reduce the achievement gap. That in the state of Illinois is one of the largest. We have a large Hispanic and African American population. If we are to achieve that goal that was established following the lead of the Lumina Foundation, because we established that as a goal. The Lumina Foundation goal was established in 2010, 2011. And that goal was stated clearly in the 2011 the governor's State of the State address. And so we were able to get the governor to say, this is the state's goal. It's not the P20 Council goal, it is the state goal. It's the goal of the Illinois General Assembly. And in order to get to that goal, we recognize that not only do we have to bring people back in who completed some college work, but we also have to increase the retention rate and the preparation of minority students, African Americans and Latino students. If we don't do that, we don't even come close to reaching that 60 by 2025 goal. And so everyone understands that throughout the system. That's why, for example, our higher ed, the board you served on, established an agenda called the Public Agenda for College and Career Success that has goals to increase re-enrollment and completion for adults. We have a huge adult student population within our community college systems, our two-year colleges. Those students need to be transitioned from GED, basic education, through and put through the pipeline. The measures have to be in place to ensure that that's happening. If we don't get that adult student population that's there, English language learners, immigrants, then we won't reach that goal. Our Student Assistance Commission, also the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, which is part of the P20 Council, has developed a pilot, a 2+2 program. We award financial aid to students who enroll and are accepted at a 4-year university but will attend a 2-year college. That reduces the cost. They're able to get financial aid awarded at the rate that the 4-year college charges, so that they could bank the difference after completing the 2-year in the community college, and then are able to better afford, because affordability is the issue today everywhere in higher ed. They're able to then better deal with the finances in the 4-year college. The other thing this commission did was we established an Illinois DREAM Act. And while we cannot put state money into the fund, the governor actually created a commission that will then raise private dollars to support undocumented students. And then the Illinois General Assembly also allowed for those students to participate in our 529 plans, savings plans, using an ITIN number. And so these are steps that are being taken to make sure that we are better able to have this student this huge growing population of students of color that need to be able to succeed in higher education. And of course, career and technical education, I didn't mention, we have a STEM learning exchange initiative that involves the business sector and the private sector in partnerships to ensure work opportunities and involvement in helping to shape the curriculum and all these wonderful things that other states are doing. But we have put a lot of these things on a faster track because we need to reach that goal. Thank you.
One follow-up question. How did you impress upon your governor that this was important enough for it to support or join this P20 commission? And how important is that to the execution of your goals going forward?
Well, one of the things we did in the P20 Council, and you'll remember I said that all the education agencies, state agencies, and economic development agencies, and workforce agencies are members of the council. But within the council, we created several committees that are working committees, a teacher and leader effectiveness committee, a data assessment and accountability committee, a governance and finance committee, and a couple of other committees. But one of the committees is the Joint Education Leadership Committee, which is made up of all the agency heads, not the deputies, not a representative, but the agency heads who come to the table. And then we ask the lieutenant governor to chair that committee. The lieutenant governor then is responsible through that committee for implementing the recommendations of the P20 Council and meets on a monthly basis and puts out a quarterly report on how well we're doing towards meeting the goal. By doing that, we connected the governor because we felt we needed the weight of the governor's office. And I recommend that here. You have to have the persons at the top say, this is the goal. And by having that Joint Education Leadership Committee, we increase accountability. We have an unprecedented level of collaboration that's taking place. And collaboration translates into increased accountability because everyone's at the table and we have to talk to each other about what we're doing on our end towards meeting the common goal. And so I think that's how the governor then, because of the work that's being done, the governor did, without hesitation, adopt the goal as his goal, as the leader of the state of Illinois.
Thanks, Miguel. You hear that, brother? You have your work cut out for you, man. Yeah? Or we have our work cut out for us going forward, okay? We're in it with you. Let me switch gears here a little bit and go to Suzanne. I feel a little camaraderie with you, Suzanne, because you had an organization that are populated by some of the most prominent business leaders in the state of Florida. What role can business in helping Florida increase its degree attainment rate? What role can business play in that? And how important to this is access to data, clear goals, shared metrics, et cetera, moving forward so that the business side can be plugged into what the education side is doing?
I appreciate that question. I would tell you that I think there's a lot the business community can do and is doing in the state of Florida, although we have a lot more to do, as we all know, because we just finished our session, and on balance, we have a lot more work to do. I would share with you that one of the first things the Council of 100 did, and they started in 1961 as a business advisory group to the governor and to the legislature on policy matters. Since that time, education has absolutely been the foundational issue. I would share with you that higher education got all of the attention originally. It was difficult to take some of the CEO leadership back to the K-12 realm, if you will. But once we did, they understood that, again, that is our feeder, that is our pipeline to our education community. And once you guys get done with what you do, then we get them in the business community and put them to work. So we see from the business community, from pre-K through post-grad, through continuing lifelong learning, the business community is involved. And it is not just on the back end as the end user, it's on the front end as a convener, it's on the front end as a leader, and it's on the front end of being a voice of reason, even when no other group in the state of Florida wants to make a statement counter to the prevailing wisdom in the state. I would tell you the Council of 100 is not afraid to do that. We actually revel in it a little bit. And I would share with you that I think your question regarding data is just foundational to everything that we do. I think that all of you know that our governor came, I guess it was probably 2 years ago now, and started bringing in what Texas is doing with what they call the Texas 7 Breakthrough Solutions. You may be familiar with this. And sent it out to all of our colleges and universities and said, hey, tell me what you think about this. It was really a conversation starter for that conversation regarding accountability and performance metrics. As you know, we believe in business that without the data, without the trending of the data, you really don't care about it if you're not tracking it. It is very difficult to show success and to point to success unless you can quantify it for the business community. I would share with you the group that Ed mentioned, the Higher Education Coordinating Council, was actually a thought piece from the council in a white paper, if you will, more of a white book, on called Closing the Talent Gap, that we issued in 2010-2011 with Governor Christ and Governor Bush together, first time, to announce that and launch it because they thought it was so foundational in the essence of how are we going to reform the entire education system. I would share with you too that with Governor Bush, I was doing economic development, so I kind of got into education through the back door. I understood that as I sat with a client that wanted to either expand in Florida or move to Florida, the first question was about education, the 15th question was about education, and the 150th question was about education. Not just where were my workers going to be educated, where are my personal children going to go to school, and also what is the workforce that I'm going to be able to have if I'm going to put my capital investment in your state. Because I can go to Illinois, I can go to Massachusetts, I can go to Singapore. So to be able to make that case for the state of Florida competitively, we kind of got into the back door of what are we doing in education? Are we competitive? And it's wonderful to hear my peer here tell us about Illinois, but I'm thinking Finland and Singapore. We really do need to get an international mindset as far as competitiveness. The HEC group that started was really an effort, a failed effort originally. We thought we could informally request the Board of Education and another terrible acronym, the BOG, the Board of Governors, to actually informally meet together. It's a novel concept. I was literally told by one of the leaders in one of those groups, to remain nameless, that they were not mandated to do that. That was not in statute. And I shared with them that you didn't have to have a statute to convene a meeting and discuss what we all knew, which is from pre-K through graduation to the workforce. We own all of this, all of us, and we must partner together. So that was the original concept of this Higher Education Coordinating Council, and we didn't name it, I promise you. Because we always say, what's going on, what the heck's going on with heck? But it is a wonderful, wonderful dialogue in that we have been able to get each of the stakeholders at the table to talk about originally what they were all doing in each of their silos. What has happened since then is what Ed described, is this huge inventory list, which is a beginning of a phenomenal inventory, if you will, of what we're offering in the state of Florida. We believe that the council, back to your point about data, that now it will be important, as Ed described, to get the demand side, which is what I hear from my educators all the time. Tell me what it is you need. I would share with you that the business community doesn't have a crystal ball of what we need. We are very much like you. We are transforming day to day, moment to moment. But I will also share with you that my CEOs are very firm that what they are looking for are folks that can think critically, they can analyze, they can communicate, all of those basic items that you're talking about, and then we look at the data parts of where the gap analysis is. What is it that the market has jobs open for? And even in such high unemployment times in the state of Florida, you would not believe, go on employflorida.com, which is part of Workforce Florida that we started when I worked on Workforce for Governor Bush. Look at employflorida.com and look at the jobs that are unfilled and remain unfilled because we don't have the talent and the skills to fill the jobs in Florida. I would also share with you that I think that one of the evolving parts of what the governor is proactively trying to do in the state is convening this blue ribbon committee on higher education. At this juncture, it may be just a basic foundational exercise of taking all the white papers and looking at all the recommendations from all of the groups in the state of Florida and elsewhere and internationally, find the best practices, glean that, and see if we can't bring reform forward. I think one of the most important things, in addition to data analysis and demand forecasting that the business community can offer, is the ability to convene. I do find, as Ed talked about, we all get along. All the educators get along. Well, all the business people get along most of the time. But what happens is we need to merge these groups together. As you know, it is paramount for the CEO to verbalize what it is that we're looking for the education community to talk about what it is we can do, what we cannot do, what the time frames are for delivery, and then in addition to it, that seamlessness that we talk about, but that we may not exercise every day. I will give you just one quick example, and I heard this last week at another meeting I was at. It was actually Gulf Power, and they had convened a group of teachers within the Pensacola area, and they were looking at STEM degreed folks, so they brought in our science teachers and math teachers, etc. And the greatest thing that occurred from that was we actually had science teachers in elementary, middle, high, and post-secondary talking together, had never met each other, had never even met each other. And yet we're expecting our system to articulate seamlessly for our students. It is incomprehensible to the business community that we have not done a better effort of bringing those groups together to make certain that we're not just talking the talk, but that we're walking the walk, and that comes down to leadership. I would share with you again that I think the biggest strength that the business community can bring to the education community, and has and will continue to, is to articulate again what our needs are, what the data trends are, and where we compare nationally and internationally. But for that, the firms will not expand in Florida. They will not move their jobs to Florida. And we will be existing on our traditional industries that we have known forever in the state of Florida. And we feel we will be left behind. As we know, the intention of the business community is to be competitive. We know that it is competitive in higher education too. And for anybody to think it's not, they're fooling themselves. We all know that we have X amount of students and we're all